Welcome, all you Contras and radical anti-communists. I'm here tonight with Liquored Rabbit, and we're going to start this little conversation off about my mistakes today, and we're going to go into a little bit about SOMA. If you've been following the Log Cabin School by Teddy, you will know all about it, and if you're not a complete medical nerd, then you will hopefully here I can dumb it down because I'm the idiot in this field, and we'll have a easier conversation. It might give you a segue into what Teddy talks about. Teddy's got a whole bunch of other stuff that you do want to go check out. He does the B-52 stuff for guerrilla warfare. But anyways, Liquored, tell us how your trip kind of went. Just say hi, and then we'll go into my snafu today, and then I'll explain why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so yeah, appreciate it. As always. It's always a good time. I know we try to get on as much as we can. But yeah, we actually were able to pound out a lot of podcasts. I don't know if it was Liquid Courage or what, but yeah, we pretty much did a probably like 2-hour synopsis for each day, 4 days in total, so about 8 hours. It is pretty in depth. It is varying in advancedness, I guess. If you get, I know we touched some pretty advanced topics, but we also talk about medical ethics. We talk about evacuation. We talk about bleeding control, but then we also talk about like I had that sonography class, as well as he ended up doing the cadaver lab, and then we all kind of came together at the end for the pig lab, which is our hogwash, which I think that probably is my favorite one, because that we were able to get all four of us kind of in there to talk about that and kind of close out the week, kind of conclude everything, which was really awesome.
Yeah, I got to section 2. I think I got day 2, and I haven't gotten past there, and my brain was hurting. So
Yeah, I don't think we had a day early. I think we pretty much averaged each night around like 2:30 in the morning,
yeah,
with like
you
class
guys,
starting.
yeah, and Teddy is very capable of dumbing things down when needs be, and he also is very good at making things extremely complicated when he feels like it. Teddy's a great dude, great friend of mine. I will say this right now. He is officer material. As much as that is a compliment, it is also a slap in the face, kind of stabby cut down as well. Sometimes he is so freaking smart that he forgets the peasants sometimes in his conversations. And I see you do that too from time to time when you get to talk to somebody who's into that. But let me roll back the time a little bit. Well, we're going to roll back to my little event this weekend. I've been working on a logistics article, and I'm also working on getting my Zygu 6100 up to snuff for the upcoming June class, which is 13th to 15th at the G Camp with historians. So if you haven't had an HF class, this is a class that they recommend that you either have gone through Matt's RTO, advanced RTO class, or you have a general class license for a little while. The reason why they do that is because the original class that I went to, he was set up to train people and get them set up for near vertical incident skywave that I've talked about a whole bunch, but think of it as clandestine communications in a non-permissive environment, which we are also going to touch on a little bit here too. But as I went out there, like normal, I'm working on a checklist for the 6100 for all you goobers who don't make checklists. And I needed a checklist because my normal radio is an IC705. Rabbit has seen my IC705. He has my KX3. And each one of these items requires a little bit different wiring and everything else to go out there. The 6100 has a USB from my computer that is a Gorilla special computer that I got off of a gentleman who came to the G Camp for pennies on the dollar. And it is my radio computer. That's it. Small tablet, Microsoft tablet. And it goes to a USB-C cable into the 6100. The IC705 has a different connector. It has the mini USB. So I have a cable that's very good for digital work. It's very clean. It's got a choke pre-built into it, and I didn't bring it. I didn't bring the adapter, and I had meant to bring that cable because I know it works on the 6100. I've played with it before. But I grabbed another cable. I thought, well, maybe this will work too, and then I can split this up and I don't have to deal with this. And come to find out, it's just
Mm.
a charging cable. So I'm a retard, and I went out there and I brought Vigilante Engineering's nice case on my 6100. Love that case, but I have set it up for nighttime operations with the red lens because I want to hide myself. You can't see through the damn red lens in the daytime, so I need to take that out and put in the clear lens. It's things. It's things because I work with the IC705 and that has a color screen. It's really hard to hide. And Vigilante Engineering's made this specifically for more clandestine operations and done work to make this better. And I don't play with it as much because, to be fair, I'm not a super fan of the 6100. I like it. I would tell you to get it. It's the hey, what's my first gun? AR-15. Cool. Do I go out and buy the most expensive blah blah blah? No. Come out, test it out, shoot the hell out of it, learn your tradecraft. That said, the 6100 is actually a damn good radio, and it works for what it is, and it's not bad. I just, when you buy your first thing, you're like, I'm really wedded down to this favorite radio. It's kind of the same thing. So,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah. Know how that feels.
I mean, we had ICOM handhelds, and both of us had Baofangs for over a decade now before they were fashionable,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
I
But
still
even
look
then,
at them.
like even before then, I'm thinking of the
Yesus.
yeah,
Yeah.
the E97,
Yep.
that that brick of a
But it's a good radio.
backpack, quote unquote, radio
Yeah, it's a
that I
phenomenal
love
radio.
to death.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know they actually talked about it because I can't remember if it was, yeah, I think it was Scout. They were talking about technicality of it, and I fully, knowing that I am not of that level of expertise, understanding what he was referencing in the way of complexity of that radio and how it benefits you when you know. Again, it goes back to knowing your equipment, knowing, we talk about this even in medicine. We talk about it in literally every facet of this prep stuff is, hey, if you have something and you don't know how to use it, it's useless. It's added pounds for no good reason. And I think there is an argument to be said that, oh, hey, well, I have this just in case I run into that guy that has the skills. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool and all, but we all know, like, we don't have that type of time, money, and, you know, weight lifting capability to freaking haul crap that doesn't benefit us or our team directly,
Yep.
or community directly.
And the 6100 is a backup, and I know your 875 is a phenomenally good radio. It's very crystal clear. You can dig into stuff. It's not the best one. There's better radios out there. And if you listen to Historian's podcast, he talks about the 10 Tech and all this other stuff out there that is arguably better, but the price of entry for a lot of the older equipment that is very good, like the 875, has dropped substantially because the new stuff is, I hate to use the word, just as good. And the ham goobers out there who are like, oh, this is the pinnacle of the universe. You must buy $2 million radio and it needs to be the size of a desk. Yeah, great. Can it do what I need to? Does it function? Yes. And I think this is a great segue into your stuff. You were out training too, as I was training with radios because no one wanted to do podcasts with me. They were all busy doing their own podcasts. By the way, on a
I
side note
was
of
a
that,
bit odd. we it was I cannot believe
I can't believe how
how
many you did
everything
it.
kind of rolled
Yeah.
out. Well, to be honest, and thinking about last year, because obviously we've gone previously, and I was gracious enough to be invited by Teddy and both Macmedic to kind of keep going with them, and this is kind of year two of at least us three doing it, and then obviously we had a couple extra that were, I mean, our level of competence was really awesome, especially that last day, just because I cannot think of a time in the past where I don't want to say, I guess it's kind of hard to words. Like, we had a perfect team. I mean, we had surgeon level information, or surgeon level skills, doctorate level skills, paramedic, medic level skills, all at the same time. I mean, so you're talking about, I mean, in a perfect world, you have that, I don't want to say high, middle, low, because that's not really correct.
It's
But
different
having
facets, and I'll caveat this because of dealing with nurses who will not get any medical help until they're dying. I'm pointing to somebody right now through the wall. There's a You have that emergency medicine that is on point. It's at the location, and then you have the doctors that deal with it. But you also have sustainment level. It's almost like the logistics side. You have the depot full of stuff. You have the transportation, and then you have the end user. And maybe I'm breaking it down because writing that article that way, but it's a similar concept. The
Oh
surgeon
yeah,
can do
yeah.
all the patchwork that you can do, but you have a lot more training in that and a lot more experience where the surgeon has more experience doing stitches. I'm sure you could do stitches at this point in your life, but would it be
Not
as
to the
good?
art
Yeah.
form.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're talking about watching someone who is this is their profession, and it's very cool that we all were able to mesh together in the end and have a great opportunity to train together and watch, you know, um, watch kind of each other kind of play. And that was uh, the porcine, the pretty much the food grade pork lab that we did all the way at the end, and so we all got to kind of play around with procedures and the applicability within the training environment that might see its fit, which I thought was really fulfilling, and that was the real big takeaway, at least for us, our goal for the week. Um, Granted, as it was last year, a overflow of information for us, and just the camaraderie on top of the education, on top of the time. I mean, and I do commend Teddy about. Oh, hey, first day we're like, hey, let's do a podcast, and then next day came in and saying, uh, we were kind of, hey, where's the next one? And kind of jokingly, with a little liquid courage, we said, hey, let's do another one. And then it really started, at least for me, and I think both kind of looked at it. We were like, this really makes a lot of sense. There's a lot. I mean, we're talking about 4 to 8 hour days of education, and we're trying to cram that into a 2 hour session. That in reality, we know guys are out there that are interested, um, and this is a organization that prides itself on trying to uh, keep all the updates, I guess, to the front, as well as the new upcoming things, studies, data, statistics. I mean, there's stuff that I learned there that really do counter the things that I was taught years ago. And even if you don't like it or not, that's what the statistics are saying. I mean, one of the statistics came out just about OEF about tourniquets.
Yep, I remember
About
you talked about it in the podcast, and we talked about it afterwards. And this is also something why I loved that you guys did the hot wash too, is because I remember us talking about it, and the crap I forgot and the crap we didn't talk about was substantial. And now, as I go back through the podcasts on Teddy's side, and granted, I talk to both you guys quite a bit now. I have no idea why I'm talking to a doctor other than he's a friend, but about stuff. But there's that information there. And I thought the tourniquet thing was very interesting. So it was what was the percentage of people that didn't need a tourniquet in an OIF?
it was around 37%.
Which is
That
about
was
over one
it was
third.
an Yeah, it was about 37% was necessary. So the rest of that was
So two
unnecessary
thirds
placement
of
of.
all tourniquets applied during OIF really weren't a necessary thing. That's what you're saying.
Yes, it was more. Um, that's what we got trained. Anybody who was in the military
I
recognizes
did too.
BLS.
Yeah.
And yes, I
Your
mean
cat
it
your
didn't
cat
matter.
tourniquets, your soft tees if you had them. And
Mhm.
and let me roll this back
Mhm.
because realizing who we're talking to, yes, I do know some of the stuff about this because I'm around people like you, and not everybody has a medic. What happens if you leave a tourniquet back on too long? And we'll caveat to that too. I think it's a good segue. But
Yeah, in a real general sense, I mean, again, I'm just gonna say it once at the beginning for anybody who's listening. Um, Obviously, this is to as truthful information as I can get with the knowledge that I have my disposal. Not a surgeon, not a doctor, but what they at least were teaching us and were kind of showing us through the statistics and data set was around the 2 hour mark, you can start having a little bit of what do you want to call it? You can have some damage to some of the structures. And then I think it's the 3 4 hour mark. And granted, that damage does slowly happen over time. It's still reversible, especially when you have advanced medical care. And that was one of the things during, you know, our deployments or our recent deployments in our anti-insurgency war that wasn't a problem. That 6 hour mark was not something that was hard for us
we
to
had
meet. I mean, I
hospitals. I mean, full
oh
hard billet
yes.
walled concrete hospitals in both Bagram, Kandahar, and these are substantial to the point that they were actually bringing in Afghanis and helping them out from injuries from mines. They People were losing their legs over there, and it wasn't during the war. It was people prior to the war getting surgeries because we had
Hmm.
not only that assistance and that capability, but we also had the ability to put a little goodwill out to the population, which is something. If
Yes.
you read well, Che Guevara's stuff, he's big into putting out the medical stuff that they could to the people. And I think it was as poorly as we did the insurgency wars, that was probably one of the things we did very correctly. And the tourniquets didn't matter because the time on, yeah, you're going to have damage, you're going to make damage. And well, I want to caveat this because we've had this conversation too is don't use a rope to make a tourniquet because you do a lot of crush damage. And I know I was trained to put the tourniquet as high as possible on the appendage. So if it's on your arm and you got shot through the wrist, they want it like up to your elbow, or we even got taught to the bicep, but the medic was smart enough to be like, "Don't put it on the
Yep.
bicep."
And that was one of those things that we were talking about, especially with some of these surgeons that were specialty, like a couple of ones that I ended up having a little bit of time with during a one of the classes who specialize in amputations, and they talk about you put that tourniquet on like mid muscle, and well, ultimately what that's doing is like, okay, so you put in the middle of the mid bicep, right? Well, you can cut off that's not really a neat place if you need to execute an amputation just because of that's mid muscle mass. So yeah, high and tight is great, and it is, and that's what we all have been trained, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess I can't officially say because I don't know and I didn't see it myself, but there was a lot of grumblings and a lot of rumors going around this last couple of weeks about that might changing in the near future. So, as everyone who's ever known anything about medicine, it changes all the time. One of those things that might be changing is that tourniquet placement and whether or not that high and tight is still part of that treatment. Now, granted, the biggest thing that we saw, and we saw it even the year prior, is prolonged field care. We're talking about, evacuate extended evacuation times, hanging on to these patients for, 6 plus hours. One of the classes I took was a case study with the Ukrainian military, in which they presented a bunch of case studies on patients that they ran into, and their numbers were pretty staggering. Not super surprising, but good to know. Like a couple of the takeaways, and I talked about it in the other podcast as well. Average evacuation time to the first level of stabilization care. So this would be you're leaving the front line, you're going to what our equivalent would be to like a roll one. but they call it more of like a stabilization zone. Terminology and capability are very clearly different between us and them, but for the most part, that's kind of the generalist. So it's about 10 hours was average for the average evacuation time. And then um, patients that received tourniquets, those tourniquets remained in place for an average about 13 hours per their statistics.
Which
So
basically
you
means
can't
you're losing that arm. When you get wherever you're
try.
getting that appendage, the leg, you're probably going to lose it.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good. You're definitely going to need specialist care. That's definitely higher than my knowledge. I mean, we've always been taught that 6 8 hour mark was max,
Yep.
and that was max. I mean, we are talking maximum. It's not that you're not causing damage, as we discussed earlier. Not like we're not, or excuse me, not that we are causing damage prior, but it's mitigatable.
I
That
and
risk is able to be mitigated because of our evac times being so short in this prior conflict, but they don't have that luxury.
Nope.
So they specifically stated they're not transporting casualties until the sun goes down. Period. End of story. Not even attempting it.
And that falls in one thing before we go on to that because that's my end of a very deep interest here. The one thing I want to say is I'm not trying to scare people away from tourniquets. There are ways to titrate and figure it out or move it down. You may still lose the appendage. I want people to understand though, if you first of all go to TCCC class, next TCCC class for the brush beater, and I think Teddy's gonna be there, and Mech Medic is running it, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
it should be in
It's
September.
September 20th to the 21st, so I might be going out there for my own specialty happiness land. And to be fair, I've been so far outside of this for so long. I probably need this. I know you've taught me stuff. I've learned things over the course, but really like the radio. I haven't done radio in a couple months because of where I am, urban environment, and I put a dummy load up and set everything up, and I failed. I don't really want to fail when one of my buddies has been shot and putting on a
Yep.
tourniquet for him, and you need the practice. I'm not saying everybody, if you're a fucking EMS guy running around all the time and dealing with this stuff, you don't need to go to TCCC. If you're a gun guy, a radio guy, a logistician, har har har, yeah, you might need this information, and that's something that's very important. And here's the kicker that you get when he teaches this class, he's teaching it for the guerrilla combatant, the standard prepper, shit's gone super sideways. It's just a storm. I've got a guy who's got a gunshot wound from somebody who's trying to steal stuff, or I have a piece of rebar through the arm. Doesn't matter. It's all treated the same way until you get to higher care. And that's part of the reason why I need to go back to it too. Granted, I've got people, almost all my friends are medical side, but when they're
Yep.
not
And that
there, I need it.
definitely, yes.
You need
And
your CLS
granted,
guy.
yes, and so that was actually a big thing that they pressed as well, is that even though they did have high level EMS or high level medical personnel, and I say high level in the way of paramedic, combat medic skills, they're MTO'd for anybody who, so MTO in the way of like what they allocated per unit was 5
Explain
medics
M
per
Toad.
company. Yeah, so that's just what you're allocated. So like for that would be like what you're issued for a company in the way of, hey, this is how your company is set up via personnel and equipment. And one of those things that I thought was pretty interesting was the fact that they usually go out and or try to maintain 6 medics per company, which anybody in a NATO setting, that would seem pretty high, at least in anything that I've
What's
known.
our
And
average? And what he's explaining is the same thing as like your fire team. You have like a rifleman, maybe a grenadier, a machine gun, that kind of stuff. But this is on a company level concept.
yes, this is your company
3
complement.
platoons ish.
Yeah, 3 to 4 platoons max, and for us, at least on our side of things, the way I was trained, it was 3.
Yep.
So they're running 5. We normally ran 3. So now, granted, I don't know if they have. I mean, again, this is what they've told us. Don't know if they actually have those people to fill those roles. but they do rely heavily on CLS personnel when it comes to direct front engagement, which that makes sense. I mean, you don't want these people getting, targeted by any of these strikes or anything. You don't. It takes time to get technical, skilled people, and it takes years to develop some of these skills. We can talk about it in a medical sense, but we can easily talk about it in any of these other technical specs. Farmers, your radio operators. I mean, just anybody who's been doing it for decades, that person gets taken out. That expertise and professionalism is also taken out,
World War II,
which cannot be.
Japan lost all their
Yeah.
fighter pilots at the start of the war, and they did not have the ability to replace that expertise, nor did they have the correct training pipeline. Um, with that said, I'll also caveat this along. We know Ukraine, most of their equipment is former Soviet, and I had this conversation with you off air too. As much as Ukraine is different from Russia, it's the difference between Texas and California to Americans, if not more so. But there's a lot of cross pollination, a lot of the similar thoughts. The languages aren't as different. When you speak them, a Russian can muddle through Ukrainians, and the Ukrainian can understand a Russian as long as they're not speaking such like Creole in Louisiana kind of style conversations.
Yeah, and I
And
imagine again that's kind of a pretty good, but it is still interesting to see how they've adapted that Eastern Bloc type of warfare or technicality and or expertise into trying to blending a little bit more Western,
mhm,
especially because of obviously our injection of information equipment and personnel in or maybe not direct personnel but people that are training them. They're coming over here, we're teaching them how to do TC3. Well, TC3 was built for us for Iraq and Afghanistan.
yeah, it's not
And
quite built
yes,
for them.
it's well, and that's kind of what a lot of people are saying now. That was a big hot topic was, hey, like it maybe not really the most appropriate for maybe the next current large thing, which was also a hot topic as well, but it was more we rely on quick evac times, and I know of many accounts of where, guys get hit and they'll be in Germany by that afternoon,
Yep. Oh, we
if
we
not
did that. We did
sooner.
that so often. I I
Yeah, I mean,
I was out at a watching a I think a colonel, lieutenant colonel in the military in the army scream and curse that he had to go home. He was getting on this aircraft that turned into a medevac flight because we had casualties that needed to go to launch stool. And this colonel was screaming at this poor airman. And all the rest of the people were like, oh, it's, whatever. It's medevac flight's taking over. Fine. We'll wait till the next one. And this guy was like, he needs to go home. And that guy got coined by a lieutenant colonel from the Marines because he's like, I can't believe you had that good poise in front of a colonel and told him no without being an asshole on the whole situation. I'm not sure if
but
that guy made it. I didn't see him afterwards, so maybe he got on the next flight out. And there was so many aircraft coming in and out of there. It doesn't matter. But that's
so
the
much can be
mentality of
said about
us.
the enlisted. I mean, that's an enlisted special power there to get to
I've
learn how to
I
do
would
that.
have drilled him in the head if I had had a gun, a handgun, and been like, "Oh, well, now you're going on the aircraft." I wouldn't have done that, but the thought crossed my mind is like, this guy needs to be wounded and then have to go on the aircraft, and we'll tell him, no, we need to get a colonel out of the fucking AO first because he wants to go home and see mommy and daddy or whatever. It's shit like that. And to be fair, the guy might have had somebody die at home. I don't know his past or why he was
Either
getting on the
way,
aircraft.
we cannot take away the fact that logistics is just so good for us. And we yes, you can think of it how you will, but a injured person becomes a logistical issue as soon as they become injured.
Yep.
And that's not a bad thing. That's just the way that you need to take it in
Yep.
the way of priority. and we did really good with that. There's nothing. I mean, seriously. I mean, not only launch tool, but I know guys that became. I mean, they got all the way back to the roll five
Yep.
in the same day,
Yep.
in the same time. Let's correspond this to at least currently what's going on right now. Maybe not be what the next conflict is, but 10 hours you're sitting there. I mean, the way they're describing it is they'll have their they'll go on an assault, right? So they'll do an assault. Their CLS guys will come out. Oh, hey, this guy got hit. CLS guy comes, does an immediate care stabilization, you know, um, procedures, and then for the most part, they stash them almost in a semi cache kind of way. Like it's not.
Which you have to. You have drones out there, and the absolute glory of this whole situation is with the drones. The silver lining is you almost don't see any of them with thermal imaging, because if you did, even the nighttime wouldn't cover you enough. And they're having to wait until nighttime to move people because there's no way. And I've talked about this, I think, on the last podcast. The the Ukrainians are fighting a logistical war almost more than anything else. And uh another side note, if anybody watches Chappie Army on YouTube, he did a great thing about the start of the Ukrainian war and how much special forces we had over there, how much assets we put in there, to the point that we said, hey, here's all this information and points of interest, but you're not allowed to kill anyone with these points of interest, Ukraine. We're just telling you these are points of interest. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And the Ukrainians went out and did assassinations and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that actually drew some of our forces out of there that were quote unquote training them, because we didn't want to go to war, but we were also giving them vital data they wouldn't have had otherwise. And I'm not saying that's good or bad or whatever else. I get why it was happening, but
Mhm.
that pushes the right people. People don't get it, and they're like, Russians are evil bad guys. Yes, yes, they are. Putin, blah blah blah. I get it, but you're pushing a man, and you're using assets that are absolutely decimating them. The reality was there were French special forces over there training them on how to create bunkers and trench lines as Kiev almost got sacked. And I think a lot of people forgot the Russians were almost to Kiev at the start of it. And logistically is part of the reason why they failed. I think they had a good concept. They were going to run in there, take over the whole country. And the pushback was just Ukraine, that the US would involve intelligence assets, the satellites, and everything else. They'd take over, and they set up their logistics trains, which were legit trains and didn't have the truck support. And we're seeing this now. They attack every MRAP truck and everything else on both sides. And now people are having to use animals and carts and any dirt bikes they can get a hold of to get around. And this sounds like, from what you had told me about, they're doing the same thing. Hey, we got to cache this guy. We can't bring a vehicle out. It's going to get hit by a drone immediately. And then at night, we're going to pack all these people up, because the reality is, just like Japan in World War II, they don't look at medics as non-combatants. The Russians specifically don't, and never have. And that makes me question, because of how close Ukraine and Russia are, how the Ukrainians do or don't look at the Russian medics. But I will also say this, knowing the Russians, they don't put medics out on the front lines. They keep them back away from that line. And what do you call them, like CLS guys?
Yeah, yeah,
Your
yep. Your
Band-Aid
CLS,
guys.
yeah,
They'll have
yeah.
those in the platoons and sometimes the fire teams, but those guys are putting bandages on, tourniquets on, and good luck. Hopefully you get to a medic who will then triage you and then send you to a hospital that's way behind the lines. And I'm assuming with all the drones and all the weapons out there, that's a major problem that's probably pushed those lines back. So now we're seeing 13 hours. God only knows what the
Mhm.
Russians are. The Russians can be up to a day at this point.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that it's probably too different, but it actually does really. It is exactly like they were talking. They, as in Brush Reader and Historian, were talking in that last podcast. They were talking about how the Russians use radio and how they're using it in a very Eastern Bloc way, that's applicable to this as well. Like, you have instances where these medics are not on the front line, which is not like us. Um, most of the time, our medics are with the squads. They're not. They may not be breaching doors. I'm not saying I've never heard of a medic being in a stack, but they were up there. They're up there. They're doing. They're actually in that environment where they are providing offensive support as well as they are providing medical and defensive support as well.
Yeah, we dropped that
Um,
in World War II after the Japanese and
yes,
everything else, and then we
yeah,
went to Korea, and Korea was the same way. The Koreans and the Chinese do not look at medics as a protected class. And then you move on to Vietnam, same thing. At this point, it's like, why even make a protected class? At least put them into the firefight. And this is interesting because I know training for the American side is you don't go run out and grab somebody until that threat is ended. So you
yes,
you may
it's
have to
very
self-care.
imperative. Yeah, it's very shoot, even when I did it, or even my initial training was all about that. Like, utilize your infantry guys, utilize your squad mates, being like, hey man, I need you to get him and I need you to get him to me. I'm not going out there because if I get out there, then I can't
You're
save
the
you
only
or
guy.
anybody else.
It's like sending the
Yes.
RTO guy out there. Hey, he can call in he can get a hold of hire to get the bombs.
Yeah.
Probably better as a TAC P guy. Like you're not sending your TAC P out on the front lines unless it's absolutely desperation, because he's the one that can call in the aircraft that will drop bombs and clear up the situation. And same thing with the
Yeah.
medic. You don't want to
Mhm.
put him out on the pointy stick unless it's necessary.
The
So
combat multiplier, if any, that's the
yeah.
fancy term for it, but that is what it is, and they use it again a little bit differently than us. But the statistics were very interesting, and like their evacuation, you were talking about animals and donkeys, horses, ATVs, side by sides, pickup trucks. I mean, they don't care. There's no such thing as a. I don't want to say there's not really anything such as a medevac. All of it's Casaback. All
Everything
of
is
it's
a
Cas.
technical nowadays, including the goats. Like I've
Oh
seen
shoot.
some crazy shit come out of that conflict, but it's not anything that we haven't seen in Europe before. And we look back. Germany is a case point in good and poor logistics. They had half tracks just like we did and all that other stuff, but a lot of their logistics were animal powered to preserve their logistics. And the reality is, most people aren't going to shoot an animal right away. It's just not. Hell, Black Hawk Down, case in point, there's a conversation about that poor donkey walking through the whole firefight for, I don't know, a day with a cart attached to him, screaming and yelling. And nobody on either side really shot that donkey. I think it got shot at the end, but like they weren't shooting at the donkey, they were shooting at each other. And it makes sense. If I'm going to pack people out, it's not a comfortable ride out. But if I can slump you on a horse
No.
and the drone operator's like, oh, it's a horse,
Yeah.
get you
I
out.
mean, there were pictures of guys on skeds. I mean, we're talking about modern day sked sleds that were just tied off to a they were just tied to a horse and then they were just bringing them in. They also had ground based UAVs, which were autonomous. I mean, fully autonomous to the point where they would send the drone up, the squad mates would load the guy onto the the autonomous vehicle, and then the autonomous vehicle would drive back to the location, the stabilization point.
Yep, and
So
that is your second most risky spot with anything logistics. Again, I'm kind of citing the article. You've got your depot, you have your transition point, but your two transition points on the basic thing is your initial leaving from wherever you're going, and then you have the transit, which is always dangerous, but it's that last transition point in too that can be very dangerous where ambushes happen. And I could see an autonomous vehicle, you drive that thing up, you throw somebody on it, good luck, buddy. I'm not getting out of my bunker. I'm protected. And your transition from that bunker to your location, while dangerous, once it's moving, it's moving. You have some security on speed and speed of movement. And I don't know how fast those autonomous vehicles are, but they're a hell of a lot faster than 4 guys carrying you on a litter and then having a freaking drone come in and drop on you, which I've seen that happen a couple times on videos.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, again, nothing is exactly the same twice. I mean, sometimes they'll take the drone out, and they even said, "Hey, they'll shadow it with like a camera drone, not a weaponized drone, but just one that so they could just they tag team it, you know? So okay, I can see the drone, they both can see each other, so we kind of know if anything happens because there isn't anybody chasing these things. So, like, on rare occasions, they may have the drone operator out there, like, shadowing it from a couple 100 feet away, but it's very rudimentary, and they're trusting the vehicle that it's not gonna get bogged down, mud up. I mean, we do know that, like, over there, you hit the wet season, and it's just a country of mud, plus war, plus
It's the
trenches.
Everglades with a little less water is what it is. Like it's mud up
Yeah.
to mud up to your neck in areas.
Yes. And they explained that that is a thing, and that's why they had those buddy team drones just so that they weren't getting totally stricken. But I mean, one big takeaway away as well with this class that I thought was kind of interesting was most of those who were in the class or in this teaching portion or what, yeah, just class. Um, Most of them continue to ask questions about uh, what do you want to call it? How do you want to say it? The use of SOPs, the ability to access good statistical data from, the front lines, as well as why is there not uniformity across the units? And a couple of us, at least me and a couple of guys that were sitting there, kind of looked and we kind of made a little joke about we were like, they're in war. Like they're fighting a outright war in their country, trying to do the best of what they have or what they can with what they have. And so, no, I'm sorry that statistical data is not of a research level of accuracy. Or, oh, no, I'm sorry that
That
all the medics aren't all
pissed me
trained
off
the
so
same.
much. That
It
pissed
was
me off so
very
much.
interesting. Well, did it surprise me? No.
No.
But at the same time, it was one of those like again, like I said, we me and a couple of there was me, the guy from the UK, and like two other of us that were a little bit more I don't want to say lower, but we were paramedic level, medic level, and we were like, oh wow, like they clearly haven't seen anything in the way of understanding how, when we talk about war and the impact that it brings to a community or a country, this is it. Do not think that, oh yeah, well, we're just gonna go and grab all of our cool ass gear and we're gonna go and, you know, we're gonna fight them and it's gonna be good and we're gonna have, yeah, we're gonna have logistical issues. Like, no, like you use the best with what you have, and it will never be enough, and it will never be adequate for what you want.
What's the training time
As-
right now for basic infantrymen in the U.S.? Like, I mean, just out of basic training is like what
I think it's
7 weeks,
I
7 weeks
think
or
it's
something like that.
10 weeks. I
Or,
think it's a six
oh,
weeks
infantry,
plus.
yeah, 6 weeks
Yeah,
plus
and
your
then
other. So
yeah, I
ten
think you can
weeks.
do 4 weeks. I think it's
World
10
War
weeks,
II, they
but I'm not
got down to 4 weeks, and there is a bubble of um, destruction on capability when you get there. You could
Ukraine.
OJT it, but who wants to OJT war? Like,
Well, Ukraine is a week.
yeah,
Ukraine is about a week, is how long they take training up guys, is about 7 days. And
oof.
that includes medical personnel. So,
I mean,
I
they
mean,
probably
think of
skip
how much.
probably
So,
skip marching in a formation. That's at least two
probably.
weeks out, and but that's something that I think the Western concept of stuff hurts my feelings a lot. And I was indoctrinated into it. I was in the military. You were in the military. A lot of the other guys are. Not everybody was military. And it takes a little while to get your head out of your ass and think about this in a non-purpose environment. Situation like Ukraine is one of those places where I would compare it to what the U.S. could have during a civil war. And everybody over here wants to play, I don't care if it's Democrat, conservative, fascist, and communist sympathizers, all the people who are supporting the idea of a civil war over here neglect the fact that you're going to have rule of law. There's no WROL without rule of law. They have rules of law there. They're still going through that. They still have people who are holding you accountable to stuff. But it is so terrible in the conflict, and people are struggling at the same time, that you're in a dichotomy, that you're dealing with stuff like right now.
Yes.
If the US breaks apart right now, how much medical equipment do you have in your house? You have a lot, because I know who you are. I know your training background. I've got some stuff. I've got a box of H bandages that my wonderful fiance can't stand. And she's like, it's taking up space. And my hindbrain's like, I need H bandages because it's the only thing I know. And I'm going to hand them out to some
Yep.
friends, but like, that ain't going to save my life. The
No,
the
but
Pepto-Bismol might keep me alive longer, because even if I'm not in the conflict, the food scarcity, the crap that you eat over there, and that's another thing on that side. I don't know if you guys even talked about. I would love to know how many people are just sick over there on both sides, and we won't know probably if this conflict ended tomorrow.
oh
We won't know
shoot.
it for 10 years, and I'll tell you
So
why. The Russians won't tell you until we dig deep, and the Ukrainians are still not Westerners, and they've been hiding stuff for a long time, hiding their weaknesses because they don't want it put to Russia. I'm not saying this to be like, the Ukrainians won't tell us the truth. No, they're hiding it because of that. They're not going to say, hey, we have weak forces, untrained people over here, but we've been training the shit out of this group over here for an attack. They're not going to do that.
no, 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 no. And the other part that you're talking about that I think is really interesting, you're talking about like food and other things. One of the things that did come out of that as well is talking about just basic tasks. Yeah, I mentioned this in the the log cabin school podcast we did. These guys are sitting in a hospital. Injured guys they're sitting in a hospital, and some of them, most of them, haven't showered for 6 weeks or more. So
Yeah,
you
the
can only
Iraq was that
imagine.
way. When we
Yeah, but
started the push into Iraq, 63 days was the average time between showers.
yeah, but that was for people that were not
Not
injured.
injured, not injured. Yep. Oh, I'm totally with you. There was an RTO guy who literally shit himself while in combat, had the antenna blown off, had to pull a wire off the wall, reattach it to the radio, and get comms back while he was literally defecating because he ate food, local food, and was sick. Guess what? They just washed those pants out in a river, which Iraq never had clean water in the
And
first place. Thank God he didn't have any like actual injuries, because he would have had an infection in no time. And these guys
100%.
are
And
worse off in holes.
yes, and that's why I fully agree with the notion that those nursing care type things, like why did that guy not get a sponge bath? Like that is a staple in the hospital.
What's the
Why the
logistics of
hell
the water there? How much water are they being able to
it does
even
not
remotely get
take
up there? Oh no,
does
I know,
like
I agree with you, but let's caveat this back, and this is something that we'll never be able to answer until down the road.
mhm.
What are they using the other water for? Can they get the water there? Or are the drones and the active stuff and all the destroyed vehicles on both sides so bad that the priority is just get help to people over a sponge bath? Like they're like, oh,
I
we'll do that
don't
later.
know, but if you're thinking that that's not important as a medical personnel, then you aren't thinking of the right things. And I'll stand by that
Yeah, I
because
agree.
those little things, if you want, I get it. I do understand the fact that, hey, no, I'm sorry, you can't have your ham and cheese sandwich and your ice chips and, all this other stuff. I get that.
Yeah.
But a sponge bath is a sponge bath being rotated as a patient so you don't get bed sores is a critical part to making sure that there is not additional issues and infections that cause that patient even not only more time in the hospital, which is more time off the front, which is also more resources that you don't have, which is more time that your surgeons and doctors have to spend with this guy that they don't have either.
Yep.
And it just compounds that issue when in reality, if you just had somebody that, you know,
What
we're able to teach and say, okay, hey man, all I need you to do is take this wet rag and I just need you to dunk it in this bucket of water and wipe this guy and
which
at
has
least get
Dakin
some,
solution, which should
yeah,
have
just
Dakin
get
solution.
some, or just some dish. It
Yep.
doesn't need to be. It's not a science. It's
No.
just. It's not. I
Clean
don't
these
even want to
people.
say it's a. It's not even a medical procedure, but it is important to the medical follow-on treatment and the follow-on quality of life for those patients. That okay, cool. Yeah, maybe he's waiting on surgery, but what type of surgery is he waiting on? If anybody's planning on opening up that guy, yeah, he probably shouldn't be covered in filth and or he shouldn't there were multiple cases that they said they had guys were sitting in the hospital with broken glass 16 hours after sitting in the hospital.
Yep.
They had debris, rocks. Some of them still had um, just dirt, debris, just nastiness that just followed them days after while sitting in the ER.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, I
You
again,
I
it's
I wanna I wanna I wanna even add to that, the
yeah.
thing that you're talking about now, here's my assumption. Let's say they do have the water. I know, and I'm gonna credit this to the fiance who is upgrading her nursing skills, and my God, the DEI higher BS in college right now at the nursing level is horrifying, to the point that if I had to take their communications class for nursing, I would have probably been like, "You better refund me, or I'm gonna burn this place to the ground." But I think she said that she experienced people coming into the hospital that did not want to have sponge baths, did not want to clean themselves, and thought they were okay for more than 1 or 2 days. And to be fair, you can go 2 days if you're not out exercising and be
Mhm.
relatively clean, but combat, mud, everything else. Now, let's take that to the US side of things. I don't know if it's me or not. I want to take a shower once a day. And I know I could get away with not taking one, but I work outside and I get messy and I stink and I hate it. And it takes everything to prevent my hindbrain from wanting to take 2 long showers a day. One in the morning so I have a refreshing day, and one in the evening before I go to bed, because I don't want my sheets dirty or anything else.
Mhm.
And and I would do that every day for the rest of my life and pay the money for hot water. And I swear to God, if you bastards start a civil war, the people in charge, I'm gonna shoot over that subject. I'm gonna be like, I'm not killing you because you're an evil person, you want communism. I'm shooting you because you cut off my hot water supply. But that's
Well,
digress.
it's
But
one of those things you
people
think
don't
about those
care.
things,
Some
you
people
don't
don't
know.
care.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, perfect example, I took 2 showers today because I was trying to pick up some stuff from the trip and totally sweat like a hog
Yep.
and then, cleaned up.
Yep.
But other days, maybe it's 2 days, but it's one of those luxuries that you do take for granted and realizing like, well, I'll just take a shower when I feel like it.
Yep.
Well, I'll take a shower when, yeah, I don't need to wash my clothes every single day,
I didn't
you
when I
know,
was
all
deployed.
that
I didn't.
and you did what you could,
Yep.
but over there, I have a hard time conceptualizing the fact that these are simple tasks. And
Anyone could
I
do it.
like,
Anyone could do it.
yes,
I could do it.
if y
I'm not I'm
exactly,
not I'm
and
not an
that's
expert, but
exactly what I'm getting at,
yep.
is that you can have those who are not medical personnel voluntold to be like, "Hey, man, you're part of our community. This is what I need you to do. I need you to do a rotation in the our quote unquote ICU or our floor or
Yep.
whatever the hell you want to call it, and say, hey, man, all I need you to do is just give these guys a quick, you know, scrum 'em down, make sure they're clean.
Yep.
If they're coherent, help them. But if they're unconscious or drugged, I need you to really wipe these guys down and double check to make sure if you see anything else. And that right there, double checking to see if there's anything else is part of the reason why that's important. Because ultimately what you're doing is a very light duty patient assessment. You're like, "Oh, wow, that bruise wasn't there yesterday. Oh, wow, that scratch is infected today. Oh, wow, like their stitches are pulling out." These are things that, okay, well, if I didn't wash them for 6 weeks, okay, well, then who's checking them? Like, if you're not washing them, are you doing any post-op? And if you're doing any post-op, are you actually having competent folks looking at these healing injuries to see their status? Because it could be weeks that these guys are here, and it might be longer if you neglect some of these small. I mean, again, I'd get on my soapbox about preventative medicine and
Yep.
cleanliness and all this other crap that we talk about actual crap and
You
actual
can't get Americans to
village.
do it at this point. Like,
No, but
and I
but
don't expect
nursing,
Ukrainians to do it either. I really don't.
but that's where
I
people
don't think they have
do,
nurses, man. I
and that's it.
they
You
don't
have
have
low
nurses.
level. No, they have low level and again, I say low level. When we say low level, I just say medical, first line medical trained folks. That's
Bandages,
most
tourniquets, and basic stuff.
just either way, medics, just
Yep.
medics. And then you have surgeons and you have doctors. But do you see a lot of nurses or nursing staff coming and volunteering their time? Like, do
Nope.
you see people just being like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to volunteer so I can just do sponge baths and bed pans and do my rounds?" And people neglect how important that is. And
Which
how, okay, sure, yeah, the nurse is doing their paperwork. If you take it from a first world or you take it from a United States standpoint, sure, they're doing their rounds. They got usually, especially in the OR, or not OR, the ER, it might be up to six, sometimes uh 6 patients that they're taking care of. That is a ton of responsibility. And then you have other ancillary staff such as your LPNs and or your techs that are coming around and doing, how, I don't want to say housekeeping things, but they might be doing the sponge baths. They might be coming and doing helping with the bedpans, but it's a system that is supposed to be fluid. Just because you're a surgeon doesn't mean that if you see a bed, that you see that the guy doesn't need a bedpan or needs a bedpan, well, maybe you help out and just kind of swap it out real quick. Or vice versa. Maybe you're like, hey, this thing is getting infected that you just did. Your stitches are red, oozing. They smell bad. They got green, purple, weird colors coming out of. I think we need to, raise the alarm and push them to a higher level of care, taking care of this prior to getting it worse or making
people
it worse. So it's very important to not forget that mid-level of treatment that is considered treatment, and that is considered extremely important for the long-term prolonged field care, sitting in the hospital, whatever you want to, ICU, floor, whatever you want to call it, inpatient type of deal that is can cost you if you don't do it the right way. Let's say you leave that patient and you don't observe their infection, thinking all the add not only not only their quality of life, but and their possibility of death, which is totally included in that. But all the added supplies that you're now going to have to re-triage and say, is it really worth using all these supplies on this guy? Well, if you just checked him 2 days ago, it wouldn't have been a problem at all. It wouldn't have even been a fathomable issue. But because you let this guy go not only 2 days without or even a week without a shower, let this guy go a month and a half without even seeing a wet washcloth
Yeah.
in a hospital, that's kind of hard for me to be like, damn, like, okay, that's a little odd, all things considered. It just doesn't seem like the right answer to that question.
Yep. And the weird thing is too, when you look back, there's a website called killedculturemakers.pen.org.ua, and they track all the influences in Ukraine who were killed during the war. And if you go there, you're going to see a lot of women with medical shears and other stuff. And it reminds me that several Americans and British and other people have gone over there, voluntarily gone over there and died. And it's shocking that none of them pushed for the nursing side, because a lot of those people were coming from that field. And I'm I hesitate to say that things are so bad there that they can't field anything like a medical tech, which is what you're talking about. Somebody to go by and check everything. It's super important. And this is something that I would also venture to guess, if the US devolves, will be on the back burner too, because your nurses are going to be important, all this other stuff. And Ukraine has pulled all these people back to core safe areas where they can protect them, because you can't lose all those people. That said, there's a lot of old people over there that are not being rounded up to be used in the conflict because they're older and they're not capable. But that is a job. I could take somebody who's in their late 50s, early 60s, and who are healthy, and be like, hey, can you do this in this safe area for us? And I'm kind of shocked they haven't done that either. And I don't follow Russia's stuff as much as I should, partly because Russia has never told the truth since it was the Soviet Union. I'm sure they didn't tell the truth back when they were with the Tsars either. And from my experiences, they didn't tell the truth. So I don't trust a lot of the stuff they say. When they are truthful, they're 100% truthful, but most of the time they're lying. It's very hard to suss this out. I don't know on Ukraine's position how they're going to address this later, if they're ever going to tell the truth. But man, I feel like that's a big loss on the medical side for them. And the people they brought over there to be influencers, the people that were making videos and vlogs, shouldn't have been on the front lines, in my personal opinion, because it's a dangerous thing to blog on a front line. Not because
Minus the EW threat.
the EW threat alone, and a lot of those people were smart enough to record it on GoPros and then take it back somewhere else and have it cleared of the data and make sure it didn't point to a specific location. Even so, people lost their life doing that there. And a lot of these people, I'm going to say, are paid propagandists. Do not take the word propagandists as a bad thing. Yes, they generally are. But in war, you're going to have the propaganda. You're going to have the heroes. We did this thing in World War II. Somebody, I can't remember the pilot's name, ace combat pilot, who ultimately was overshadowed. He came back home and was going out and doing trying to sell bonds for the military and all other stuff. These people are doing this, and it is culturally a good thing. It also supports the conflict and doesn't demoralize your troops. Like, you see somebody out there, this lady, she's like, oh, we're fighting for Ukraine, blah, 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 and I'm helping people and all this other stuff. And maybe they show some of the war, but they also show these people getting help and everything else. And it looks like their medical system's working properly. So therefore, the young soldier coming in isn't concerned about that and isn't going, Jesus, the Russians are going to shoot me, and then I'm going to have to pray to God. The only thing that's going to save me is praying to God, because the medical system's broken. So I get
And
it.
that gets brought up a lot as well, is the morale hit that it takes when you have to tell people, well, you got to fight for this cause, but if you get hit,
Good luck.
well, that's all. Good luck. Yeah, have a great day. Nobody's coming to get you. And
If Allah wills it, you better start praying. Do you know how to pray? Do you know how to war pray? I'm gonna.
Yes.
That's a shout out to Joe Dolia. There's a feature in one of the books, Every Man a Warrior, and you pray with the acronym WAR. I hope a lot of people out in Ukraine know how to do it, because that's awful. And here's the worst part. Let's say I'm injured. I'm not going over to Ukraine. Absolutely not going over there. I wouldn't fight for Russia. Wouldn't fight for Ukraine. I'm not going anywhere near that horrible conflict. I feel for those guys, but I imagine myself in a bed, incapacitated to the point that I can't get around. I know better. I know I need to clean myself. Maybe I don't know, my leg's blown off. I can't even get to the damn water. Even if I asked somebody to clean up, they'd just be like, whatever, and they'd go on to do other priorities because there's possibly a handful of people. That's it. A handful of fucking people to take care of all this stuff. They're not
Mhm.
going to spend time. It's not the U.S. You don't come in and get everything handed to you. Yeah, you're going to have a big bill later, but you're not going to get it handed to. I'll even caveat this. This might be a cultural thing, the Eurasia sphere. One of my friends was traveling around the world with her boyfriend, older couple. He had medical issues, and you have to forgive me. It wasn't Taiwan, it was Malaysia or something like that. They went in there, and he was sick as hell. And thank God he made it back to the U.S. But for over a month he was there. The costs weren't high, but you had to pay for the pillows, you had to pay for the bed sheets, you had to pay for them to get cleaned. Which, geez, like the U.S., I wonder how often those bed sheets get like, oh, there's blood on the bed sheets. Well, we gotta switch the bed sheets. We gotta do this. You might be able to
For
tell
the
me
most
that.
part, that's pretty. It's usually like maximum. I think it's every 2 days.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think on the floor is when what they try to do. If not, maybe a little. I mean, plus or minus a day, maybe in each direction. But I mean, you're
I don't
talking
know
about a system
Ukraine's
that is just.
hospitals, so I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
if
but I
that's
mean,
I don't know if that's how they run their hospitals there. Like, oh, well, you got to pay for everything. And they're just like, well, we don't pay for that for the average person, so we ain't doing this. It's not
well,
worth our time. Who knows?
you
And that's a
talked about
cultural
earl
difference.
a little bit, but you talked about earlier about a little bit of the misconception between like the team and a little bit of the miscommunication slash the politics of it,
Mm-hmm.
and in the efficiency that can be knocked down
Yep.
between the rule of law and some of that other stuff.
Yep.
And one of the big things that I think a lot of people don't realize too is so it was referenced in a prolonged field care podcast about how the uh, their Department of Defense or their you know
DOD.
Ministry of Defense,
Yeah.
excuse me, their Ministry of Defense and their uh, what they would consider, I think it's the State Department or their like
Department of
equivalent to
Interior, maybe, if I remember
interior.
correctly.
Yes, like, and so you had this miscommunication between those two organizations, which were the DoD was like, well, we need doctors, and the State Department or the government was like, well, they're not certified to work in that environment, so they're not going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
and so they had to create on the fly, and they decided to just create on the fly SOPs. But the entire time that they were developing SOPs, these doctors were not on the front line and working to. Some said, screw it, and I'm going to do whatever I want. But others were like, well, I legally don't want to lose a license, or maybe it was confusion, doctrinally, SOP, scope of practice. You start getting into the muddy of words of all these different things, and it starts kind of, okay, well, maybe I would have gone, but because of this bureaucracy, screw it, I'm not going to go. And some people said, okay, they went the other direction and said, well, I'm definitely going to go help my countrymen and, consequences be damned. So I thought it was interesting that these folks had to deal with that
It
and
was
that
the
it wasn't
Ministry
like,
of Healthcare, by the way, that you were
yes,
probably thinking
yep,
of.
correct.
And
Yep, you're right.
it's been 20 odd years. This is actually history past of where my education was, but something I didn't know. I did know and I forgot. Healthcare in Ukraine is part of a universal healthcare system, legally built up as a successor of the Soviet healthcare, otherwise dismantled in 1991. I knew they had it during the Soviet times. They've got some history, and I'm reading off Wikipedia just because. And I could see that straight up. The Ministry of Healthcare saying, "Oh, you can't go there because you're not. Oh my God, you're not qualified. We're fighting for our lives, but bureaucrats get involved, and that is
But
that.
it can,
Oh my God.
I'm not going to, I will not go and say that I would be stupefied
No, that's an
if,
officer. That's the army does that shit. The Air Force, the Navy, everybody else
oh,
does the
yes.
same crap all the time.
Hmm.
And it goes away during combat. One of the nice things about war is a lot of that tends to go to the wayside, and logical minds prevail and shit gets done until there's enough time and space to put those soft, plushy little bastards we call politicians out of their panic zone and put them in a nice, comfy bunker. And then they start trying to reassert force. And then we get stupid shit like, well, you can't shoot at that town until they've shot 2 RPGs at you or some shit like that. Which,
Yeah, I can only feel with for folks that had been part of that, and talking with talking with other people that are part of that organization, I guess, and saying, "Oh, well, we did the best with what we can, but we are also trying to keep that quote unquote, we'll just use a rule of law and or making sure that society still stands up and all this other stuff." But yeah, you go and you say, "Okay, well, okay, man, I'm taking rounds right now. taking drone fire right now, artillery, MLRS, conventional." I mean, does that really, I'm not saying does it matter then, but it's that middle ground that some people forget is there. And the comments that were made during some of these classes or this class in the way of, well, as I referenced earlier, why do we not have good statistical data coming out of Ukraine? Well, I mean, there
because I'm being shot
is.
at and I'm not writing shit down while I'm being shot. And this is a whole thing. This happens in
It's kind
logistics
of
too.
interesting.
I need
Yeah.
I need 8 cases of bullets. I need this much water and this much food. And then some logistics weenie who probably should have seen gunfire before, but he's been hiding in a fob, goes, "Did you fill out the requisition for it?" "No, I just got back from 12 hours in the field. The Air Force couldn't come out for whatever reason, and we were in a pitch battle. I need shit, you dumb fuck." Sorry for the language, but like, I've seen this so many times, and it is something that pisses me off to no end. And knowing that this is like, these are our top of the line specialized medical care people who are going to support us. Americans, maybe not me. God forbid, I'm not. They're going to have to pull real hard and deep to get my ass on an aircraft to go over there. For a World War II or III or whatever, 4 or 5 at this point that we're going to go through. But these
As long as
people
we
are.
don't have any more than Marvel movies, I think we'll be okay.
You know what? I might go over there to skip a Marvel movie.
Jeez.
They've been bad. I haven't watched the last one. I skipped. I've been skipping the bad ones because people tell me about it. But that idiocy, that I want to grab them and be like, how fucking retarded are you? How smart are you? How and this what hurts me is because Teddy is super smart. He does not do this. Kudos to you, Teddy. You have the logic not to think this way. And
No, and he's very, we talk
he's
about this
super
a
smart.
lot in the fact that and we've tried to, what do you want to call it? Brainstorm all this stuff and take
Yep.
everybody that you can get your hands on and say, this is all the conceptualization. This is all the capabilities of our knowledge and combined knowledge. He's the first one that I've talked to that it goes and he pushes nursing care hardcore. Like, yes, this
Yeah.
is what we need. This is going to be the part that makes the big difference. This is the part. And
This is
and
how you
I
get people
fully,
back on the line. Let's
yes,
you get shot.
yes.
You get shot. And there were so many people shot in so many casualties in uh the Iraqi freedom and Afghanistan that were not life threatening. They were cuts or hell, they weren't even shot. They cut themselves on X object out there, could have been metal, whatever else. They had their tetanus shots, they had all this other stuff, so they were good to go. But infection could come in, so they came back. They were nurse cared. Basically, here's some bandages, here's some stuff. Come in, get checked. You're not going out for X number of days, and then you're fine, and then you're back into the fight. I can wrap my head around, but I can't wrap my head around. I have been wounded by glass shrapnel that physically I would be able to pull out and take care of myself if I had numbing agent and the capability of actually doing that process. Maybe it's not too deep, but I might have an infection on top of that. So now, even if I do get the medication to fight the infection, I'm sick as shit. And infections sometimes don't kill you, they just debilitate the shit out of you. I'm now weak. I haven't eaten a
Yes.
stable food. I am now down from a couple days recovering because I didn't get a good bath. I didn't get somebody to clean that out. 2 weeks and or months of recovery on a non-vital injury. And we'll say like I'm not saying like is it vital? Yeah, because it turned into that. But it could be a gash. It could be a grazing gunshot wound that picked up crap off of your clothes that's dirty and shoved it into the flesh, but it didn't hit any major arteries or whatever else. It bled. It looked shitty. You're going to have a shitty scar. But the guy who cleaned it out, stitched it up, gave you your meds, and told you to sit down for a couple days.
Yep, and you can say that, okay, well, they have had varying, um, they've been having varying success with antibiotics and other ways to treat these infections sometimes as well. Point of or point of um, impact and all that other stuff. And bringing them back, they're still encountering infections, and they're like, well, why are we still having infections? Well, as the one of the surgeons stated, he's like, well, you guys aren't, cleaning your guys like at all in any sort of a way in a
I want to know
medical
how
establishment.
bad. I want to know how bad the surgery room is. A funny thing like MASH, you always think of MASH on surgeons out in the field kind of situation. And I know Korea was not a clean, spotless environment, and the movie is not or the TV show is not representative of it. But I could just see these guys coming in with gunshot wounds, and maybe it's not a critical death thing, but hey, you got to pull this thing out and you got to stitch this thing up. What does the rest of him look like? And is he in a clean uniform? Is he not clean? Is he in a gown? Does he just have sheets covering him so he's clean, but they've washed him off? He's in a clean sheet or a wool
Yep.
blanket. When he gets there to do a serious but not life-threatening operation, so he can recover for X number of weeks to get back to the fight. And man, I just God help us if we have to go to a near peer conflict, and that's what this is. This is a near peer conflict. I can't. Chappie's army. The guy left. I can't remember what the YouTube video thing was, and it was
Task and
Text and
purpose, I
Purpose.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did this whole thing,
He
and
was pretty good. He was very I did like the way he presented stuff. It wasn't
yeah,
bad.
and he wasn't bashing one side or the other ever. Some of the stuff I kind of
No, he
disagreed
was
with him.
pretty factual.
Yeah,
He kind of
yeah.
just rode the facts on it, which I
His
like.
facts on this Ukraine-Russian war and what we did in there just horrify me. I don't think Ukraine would have lasted without direct involvement from the West in the near term of the start of the war. And they obviously wouldn't even be hanging on this well right now because the logistics would have been gone. That country did not have the logistics at all to sustain this. And just knowing that they have sacrificed either by stupidity, which there's got to be a lot of that. Um, I'm going to say social construction of their army in the medical field. That's scary. And all those people that either are dead or are so debilitated they can't go and fight, they're gone. They're out of the thing. You can't bring a guy who's like half wounded back to the front line and have them go into another trench to do patrols at night to combat the enemy. They're not there. They're just
Yeah.
not there. And people forget, like, you don't have to die in war to be absolutely useless. And some of these people, maybe all they are good for is doing nursing stuff now. But maybe they don't have a leg. It takes time. You can't fit a prosthetic on somebody and just have them walk. You can't have a guy with no arm get a prosthetic and do stuff. And relearning all that features, it's not
Mhm.
something you can do near the front line. So he's done. He's done. If he's sick, he's done. If he's weak, he's done. Because I can't have even a guy cleaning bodies for 8 hours. Well, if you're sick, maybe you can do it for two
And
fully.
maybe
And now
and there
you're
that is
just a lump somewhere.
yeah,
You're a
and that's
mouth to feed.
yeah, that goes back to your okay, how do you kind of get these guys to be their fullest in whatever situation they're currently sitting in? Because yeah, I know. I mean, like you said, you get guys that okay, they've been wearing a prosthetic for a decent amount of time. It's as if they never had a prosthetic. and then you
Yeah, they
guys
can run, jump, and do
yep,
stuff. It's
yeah, as if no problem at all, but we cannot forget the fact that yeah, sure, tourniquets, and we we kinda made this point before because there are a couple people out there that are like, "Oh, yeah, and I would consider it a little black pill, like, "Hey, I'm not carrying an IFAK at all because I'm not gonna get treatment at all, so why am I even gonna bother?" Well,
oof.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not saying because my thing is, 1, because I believe in people like me, and I believe that there are many people that are like me that have this idea that, okay, cool. Am I the best shooter in the world? Nope. Never will claim to be. Like, what's the joke? I'm not a good enough shooter to care about grain weight. That's not
Yeah.
me. That's not me. You know, can I defend myself? I believe
Where's
so.
Wisco Mando when you need him?
And that's
Off shooting competitions right now. The bastard's off shooting competitions. I'm like,
becoming
hey,
a
he's like,
better
oh, I'm
shooter
busy.
than
Yeah,
me. But you know what? That's why I pride myself and say, you know what? I'm cool with that. It
yeah,
takes this community. I, as a part of the community, the things that I can bring to the table is I know my level of medicine pretty damn well. And the
yep,
stuff that I don't know, that's why we went to this training last week. We
yep.
all went to this training together as a unit to do the best that we can and try to get as much knowledge as we can, providing our I mean, you got personal lives, jobs, families, all this stuff's going on and
You're
these
not a
guys
medic anymore. You're not a medic.
I
But
just
what are you doing?
volunteer. And I'm still
Yeah,
trying to keep
yeah.
my
No, I mean,
just to
but
keep skills
yeah, but you're not
professionally.
you're not doing it
Well, I
professionally. You're
guess,
not a
like, yeah.
medic in the military. You're not
No,
a medic
nope,
in the military.
nope.
You don't have to learn war medicine because you have to for your job.
Yeah, just
You're
civilian
learning war
side
medicine
now. So I do
so you're
civilian
expert.
side,
Yeah. So
and
you know what's coming
yes, and I
or
try
may
to
potentially do it.
yeah, and I try to I keep oh, it's a, what do they call it? A
Perishable skill too.
perishable skill. That's exactly
Yeah.
I was gonna say for so perishable skill is all of medicine. And your reaction time, I mean, we found an amazing video that really cracked our sides pretty good about it was shoot, I think it was like a Mexican policeman or Mexican
Yeah.
police officer or spec ops guy watching this guy absolutely botch
Oh, I
a
watched that.
tourniquet policeman.
I don't know what
That's
that was, but it was god awful.
I don't know what
The
that was
funny
either, but
thing
it
is,
definitely wasn't a hasty tourniquet.
no, the funny thing on that is Warfare came out, which is like 24 Alpha was the production thing of it. Um, for those guys who were in the global war on terror, when you go and watch this video, it's Navy SEALs. Of course, it's always the fucking Navy SEALs who make videos. Um, it is very, very well done in a lot of aspects. And I didn't have the horror to deal with a lot of trauma shit when I was deployed. I kind of got some stuff, but it wasn't like people are shot right next to me. I'm bleeding out. I have problems and all this other stuff. They were talking about morphine. The medic got shot up, and the people putting tourniquets on in that video were as bad as the video you guys posted, and that was on X. I can't remember if Teddy posted it or you or Mech Medic did. It is
It was a
it is something.
very I mean, we're not
It was a dude who was told how to do this probably years ago, who went, oh, what's that thing? There's a the self defense shooter on YouTube. It's fudge. I've been shot.
oh,
Fib, and you lose your capability to do things because you've trained to a piss poor level, and then. And that's the same thing with the video you showed, but I'm kind of curious if that didn't happen at the start of our Afghan war too, and the Iraq wars. Some of this actually happened. And I can't remember when the Warfare movie was supposed to be specifically about, like what time it was and what the zone was. But their medic got blasted by an IED, and he was fucked up. I think he survived, if I remember correctly, but he was chewed up. Somebody else was chewed up, and the medic couldn't help him, and then the other guys who were helping him just did a piss poor job. Now, I don't know if that was a movie take, but now we see it in real life, and this is why I'm coming back to this. Training. I'm out training with my radios because I need to know how to do my radios. I need to be able to train Rabbit on how to do his radio because he's got radios too. And he may not be needed as a medic. Maybe we have 50 nurses, 30 doctors, and that's all we have. And half of us are now shooters. And yeah, Rabbit, you can run a radio. You're not incompetent on a radio. You've done it before. You know how to do it. I can teach you a little more, and then I can go rack out for 6, 8 hours and get a good night's sleep and come back
Yeah, and
and do my job.
that's the same thing even I mean, in reality, you don't need the most technical specialist to watch the most benign things all the time. You
Yep.
need them tactfully, and you need them coherent, and you need
Yep.
them like, you need them to have the best ability to to use their skills when you need them to be used, and they recognize that. Those who are of that professional, extreme high level of they know where they're sitting. But
Yeah.
we as in, hey, you're creating a group or you're thinking about your group, you're thinking about your little camp. You, you tactfully place people and say, okay, well, when you're not, doing such and such a task, can you just, in this aspect, can you run by the clinic and just kind of sponge bath a couple guys and then chill out for a couple hours before going on to your
I
next
need
task?
I need 5
You know,
hours of sleep, man. I know you're not
yep.
doing much right now. Can you just go do this? Make sure that guy, like, he doesn't like make sure he's coherent. He's got a little head trauma. We're just watching him right now. He should be fine. Come get me if you need me.
And that was another big thing that I fully appreciate. And as much as I don't want to say I fought him on the idea, but Teddy talking about pushing medicine down to to the line of saying, okay, well, if everybody's a medic, I'm not saying you don't want to lose anybody, but does it hit as hard if you lose a medic when everybody in the squad's a medic? Or, especially if you're higher than a CLS, you get that more advanced training. It's like, okay, well, now you get to retain these more specialist guys that, have expertise that you cannot replace due to time. It's like just time in service and time of expertise. You can't replace that. So, okay, sure. Now your entire squad knows how to take vitals, knows what an in and out is, knows how to do uh, the March algorithm. They know what TC3 is. They know what prolonged field care is. And so taking care of a patient for 2 or 3 hours, maybe 6+ hours, is not a big of a deal for, let's say, a recce squad. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
recce squad is what, 4 to 6 guys. You try, I mean, just by doctrine, you try to keep it a little smaller. 4 to 6 guys. Well, guess what? Everyone's getting a little bit of sleep. But if it's just
Mm-hmm.
one medic and I haven't trained anybody else how to do that job, and I'm like, oh man, this guy's kind of like fluttering. Well, guess what? Guess who's not getting any sleep? Guess who's going to be,
You.
even if I told you or I told like anybody else, hey, I need you to, wake me up if he does this. Okay, well, maybe you don't know what that means. Maybe you
Yep.
wake me up every 2, 3 hours. You wake me up every hour. 'Cause you
Just
don't
wake me
know.
up and let me
You're
check
like,
him.
okay,
Yeah, and then
well,
come back.
and that is the nature of the beast, of course. But, education is weightless. We talk about ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. Well,
Yep.
knowledge is weightless. They can't take away your knowledge. And especially if you practice like you were talking about your radios. And I try to do the
Yep.
same
If you
thing as
don't
well.
practice, it'll go away.
It will go
It'll go
away.
away.
It will expire and you won't get you will not be as capable. And you also lose that drive. Like just talking to
Yep.
you and listening to like the podcasts about other technical things. I'm like, oh man, that makes sense. Like they were talking about um, the Envis stuff, talking about bounce,
Yep.
talking about
Yep.
DFing guys. I was like, dude, you know what? That's super
You and
cool.
I have
I
done
mean,
that stuff,
yeah,
and it's been fun as hell.
can't
And it's not something
yeah.
you don't geek out on it like I do, which is fine. It's not, but you also appreciate it. Like I don't geek out on medical stuff. My my happy place is never going to be hands, wrist deep in somebody's guts, pulling something out, or putting enough bandages on somebody and getting him to a place. Will I do it? Yes. Do I appreciate your skill level and knowledge? Yes. I pray to God all we do is play with radios for the rest of my life, and I never have to assist you with this shit, but I'm gonna learn.
110%. I hope that all of this, at the end of the day, I hope all of this is for
Waste
naught.
o' time.
I hope that I look like a cool tactical potato guy, but at the same day, like,
Oh,
I look,
tactical potato. We need to hold on.
yeah.
Wisco Mando. You need to get skinny so I can't point at you in a freaking lineup of all my friends. Just
See,
that's for
you
him.
see,
He called me
he's been
today.
trying. He's
So
been doing make some great strides. Me
yeah,
talking
yes.
about, and again, making it happen. He's making it happen.
Yep.
There's no
Working,
complaint.
huffing,
Yep.
puffing.
And to be honest, I'm really, I've been trying to do the same thing in stage meantime between school and work, and I've let myself down a little bit as well. But at the same time, you be around people that are motivating, they motivate you. It's just the way it is. You got to get those friends, get those brothers in arm or brothers that we're all on the same wavelength, and we better each other. Iron sharpens iron. That's the key
Yep.
way of making each other better because you're not going to do this by yourself. Period.
Shout out to Blacksmiths Publishing as well.
Oh yeah.
I met another author via X. He followed me after I told him about uh some black lady was calling all gingers black people. There is a joke there. It is not hyperbolic, crazy DEI stuff. She was making a joke, and I pointed it out. I'm not going to point it out on the podcast specifically, but rearrange the letters ginger. And then it's funny from a black lady. So shut the fuck up, you crazy people. Also,
Here.
some people take jokes a little hard, but yeah. I do want to wrap this up because I need to go eat something before I perish because God knows I couldn't go at least 3 days without eating at this point and still be alive. But I
Well,
know the fiance likes to eat dinner. And I do want to come back to this.
oh yeah,
I really
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I think
Definitely
this is
appreciate it.
great.
This is
Yeah, and I want to get your hot wash on a more less sophisticated and intellectual down in the weeds grunt I'm an idiot conversation because I am absolutely sure Teddy just drug my ass through the coals on purpose to the point he's like, you didn't listen to my shit. Yeah, I didn't because I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. Come over here and turn my radio on, you shit.
and to be honest, that's definitely what we're trying to do is saying like, okay, Soma is a place that you can get lost pretty quickly in certain
Yeah.
facets. Perfect example was took that ultrasound course, and man, it was that was a high pace.
Now you want an
Oh
ultrasound
yeah,
machine in the
it's
home.
just well shoot because other circumstances will be looking,
Yep.
but at the same time, that's not something I use them for needle driving, which is the act of using an ultrasound to help you place IV catheters or doing blocks, or ultimately you identify a needle within the body and you're able to use that to, okay, hey, I can actually use this to assist and find other structures to make sure that you're going where you're supposed to put the needle. And that's what needle driving is. What that is. But that's a
Get
really
to the right organ, the depth.
yeah, and that is a really I don't want to say it's a really rudimentary use of that technology. It is miles farther, and teaching that and being like, "Hey, this is what artifact looks like. This is what noise look like. This is all this other stuff." And in reality, ultrasound and radios are really, really close to each other, and
Similar.
the physics is very, very close, and it's very interesting to see the crossover and knowing, "Oh, hey, I know enough. Oh, wow, like, I've heard the same terminology in,
Yeah.
when I took my general license,"
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
"Oh, yeah, this is how the sound waves are."
It's all the same stuff. It's
Exactly.
the sound waves and
So
stuff. It's the same concept. Radio waves and sound waves are the same animal. It's on a different frequency. It is going to react similarly, but it will react differently in different objects. A gamma ray is going to go right through stuff that a light wave, which is the same electron moving in a different pattern. Well, maybe not the same photons and
Mhm.
all that stuff, but it's the same concept. It's the same wave patterns. And people forget this. And it is my knowledge in radios has helped me understand liquid hydraulics and other things that don't make sense but it was a connecting
Mhm.
knowledge thing. And I think that's awesome. It's awesome for that. That little extra knowledge goes a long way. And it's the only time I'm ever going to say this, because I still think college is an absolute sham shit show. Not because it was, but because it is. There is a that is the argument to me saying, hey, you need to go take another class on another subject, a little intro to this, a little intro to rocks, maybe geology or whatever else, because so many things are tied together. And this is also comes to the medical stuff. If you, I think Teddy said this, everybody's a donut. They're just a big hole with a
Yeah.
lot of stuff around it, which is hilarious. But when you
It's
start thinking about it,
it's
you
a
are a
whole
donut.
there's a
Stuff goes in your
whole
mouth and comes out the other end. There's a hole straight
yeah.
through the center. It goes through a lot of processes. And if you cut an arm, guess what? It's a hole. There's holes in there that make donuts. Um, that is ludicrous, but it also makes sense.
Mhm.
And you talk about humans as a water bag and other
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and we're
I use a
water.
Tupperware
And
container all the time. Like, that's
did I ever take you out to shoot guns underwater?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We did some training with that,
Okay.
and we were understanding.
You remember the pain in your stomach
Mhm.
from the hydrostatic
Oh, yeah.
shock of a
Why you don't put
pistol
your head
round?
underwater, all that other stuff,
Yeah.
for your health
It
and
it, it
welfare,
is
so
it was stupid, don't get me wrong. It's stupid to do. But it's that little knowledge that later on you see, oh, that's a sound wave. I shot a gun in the water. It went through. And
pressure.
that's how a lot of these,
Mhm.
yeah, devices work. It's just, hey, let's not make it to a frequency that makes the person want to
Yeah.
puke.
And so it was very nice to get and one, you always wanna you surround yourself with educated folks all the time,
Yeah.
and you wanna be selective.
Put the
Yeah,
smarter
and make
people
sure that
out there.
if you're not surrounding yourself with people that are educated in things that you either don't know or higher educated in the things that you
Yeah.
want to know, then what I mean, it's not it does you no good to be the smartest guy in the room because
Oh, yeah.
it it just doesn't do you any good. So try to surround yourself with these folks. I mean, and to be honest, this community and I was talking to Mechmatic and Teddy about like how my experiences with learning my resentment and a little bit of my like leash tugging that got me into the brush beater community at all. Like I remember you trying to get me
Yeah.
down to that class and being like, "Well, do I really want to do this? I mean,
Do I want to do
like,
this? And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to pay.
yep."
I
And
had money at the
and you were like,
time, which I
"Screw
don't
you,
now.
dude."
I'm like, I'm paying
Yep.
for it.
And
And then it paid in dividends. I saw a really good post today, and when I say good, it was a fucking awful post by a liberal friend of mine who said the one thing I learned is being nice never is rewarding. And yes, you're a friend of mine, but everybody I've been nice to and helped out, the rewards come
mhm,
later on. And that's something that came from this. Hey, I was nice to you. The reward was you came to class. We had a blast. We met people. I met Chris Weatherman, other stuff. I met Matt, which fast forward, the smart people I'm around Teddy. I don't know why Teddy keeps pulling me in these medical things, but the dude is super smart. And he pulls me in with Joe Dolio. So now I have access to Joe Dolio, who is now mad at me and wants to poke me in my eye for various reasons. And he also doesn't like that I do voice communication because I'm usually driving and I don't text worth a piss. And he hates that. He's like, if I wanted to pick up a phone, I'd pick up a phone. And you don't text. And I'm like, okay, so now I don't. I'm going to try not to use the voice on there ever again because I respect Dolio. He's smarter than I
but it
am,
is
and
nice to be in a community and it's like, okay, hey,
I'm in a community
it
with
is
smart people. With smart
and to be
people.
honest, I don't talk a lot in any of our chats. I just don't because in reality,
No,
the
I
amount
do
oh
more
yeah,
than
and I
you.
to me, I guess I just don't have too much. I feel that I don't have too much to say, but it is always I'm like, oh wow, like, and I go and I look up this stuff and I look up other studies, and it
Yep.
runs that which I
I
wish
absorb
was still a
information all the
thing because you
time.
can't really YouTube rabbit hole anymore like you used to. But like,
Yeah.
I'll end up from one medical study to the next, and it was like, oh wait, why? Well, and why was that a thing? All because of one exposure a long time ago, and a little bit of, pushing and a little bit of resentment that kind of was unfounded, and realizing that, you know what? No, you can't do this by yourself. Yes, the community that you choose to surround yourself with,
Lone
like,
wolves will survive the apocalypse.
never ever will I say that ever again. And realizing that,
Yeah.
hey, the individual bunker idea will never work. And the
Nope.
comfort and the knowledge that I've gained from folks has been extremely immeasurable, as well as the hospitality and trust that I get from these folks is just something that's unfounded. And it
Yeah.
similar to the military, what I felt in the military, but different,
Different.
different.
It's definitely different. It's not. I'm not forced
No,
to be around you. They're not
you do
forced.
all the army
If Joe
things with
does, if
none of
Joe
the
wants to poke
BS.
me in the eye, he will. Yeah. If Joe wants to poke me in the eye, he's definitely going to poke me in the eye. But I respect him. He's a
I can't
great
wait to
dude,
come
and like
bother them
like
all again too. So
yeah. I brought this up. I don't know if I brought it up on our chat, but I was like, I may not be able to come to the Recce and Scout course because I really freaking need TCCC. I do.
well,
And it's something I've dodged so much because my dumb animal ass was like, somebody else has that. And I was like, man, I haven't done a tourniquet in like years, and I haven't been trained on it in years since I got out of the
pathetic.
military. I kind of remember it, but yeah, I mean,
I'm a
we've gone over
failure
it
that I
since I've
haven't,
gotten out of the
I
military.
haven't,
But
I haven't, I haven't poked you in the eye to go do a friggin'
well,
tourniquet, but I do
yeah,
believe
I mean, we've done IVs in my house,
that's, I
so
mean, that's usually a means to an end. But to be honest, I am probably gonna be there as well. I think
okay,
I'm going to be going
good.
to the TCCC class as well. So,
Maybe
so
we can get Wisco and the whole crew down there, and we can do a little podcast. Maybe I can cry to Matt and be like, hey, can we go to your store like the day after, stay one extra day, and then do a podcast? I don't know,
but
but anyways, I do want to wrap this up. You got a
no,
last
no.
words
To be
before we
honest,
close it out?
as always, I've appreciated. I know this is kind of a hot wash of our hot washes, but yes, if anybody else is very
Yeah.
interested, the log cabin school, we go over it in very good detail. We talk about, like I said, medical ethics, all the classes that we took, talked about the expo and some of the newer, cool fangled stuff that we were into, as well as some of our other experiences throughout the week that was just extremely in depth. And I
Yep.
think we're planning on doing the same thing next year. So if anybody else is interested, go check that out.
Yeah. You might need some medical experience because I'd love to go, but I'd also be absolutely dead weight. So um so the log cabin school, great one. Stuck Peak Medical has a podcast as well. Project 22-3 preparedness. That guy's great. And Father Abraham. I haven't listened to Father Abraham's latest stuff, but they're out there. If you're bored and you podcast while you drive, um, I can't recommend these people enough. Also, the Pinelander podcast, and I hate to say that they're part of I think um, the publishers over at Blacksmith Publishing. That's a good podcast. I haven't kept up with them as much as I should, but I just wanted to throw those names out for you guys because I know you're listening to us, and if you've gotten this far down the line,
Yeah.
man, you
Oh,
had some free time. So, anyways,
gotcha.
I'm gonna go eat some food. We're gonna go try to find some
Always a
Korean
good choice.
barbecue place because I hate myself and love Korean barbecue, but I'm probably gonna die from it later. Rabbit, man, it's nice to have you back. I miss you, brother. Can't wait until we hang out again, and hopefully I can move out of this
Well,
hellhole that we call a city and get somewhere
yes,
less
as
bad
always,
and
thank you very much for
closer.
having me on. And
So
as always, it's a good time. So hope to see you sooner than later.
HP, and if I can get you on, I may not be able to because your schedule, but HP11 is going to be probably doing a podcast with me Tuesday of this week or Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about homesteading. And I've got another gentleman who will be talking about homesteading in the western
Interesting.
side of Texas, which
Yep.
is different from where HB is. And I'm going to ask the same questions. I don't know shit. I'm going to ask Wisco Mando and probably you off air questions. What
Cool,
questions you want
thanks.
to ask if you can't be there. So, anyways, You guys have a good evening, and we are out of here. Good night.